Controlling the mind and senses. controlling the mind and senses,
Anilaha, and the internal airs, Yata, so that, Na, not, Bhuyaha, again, Atmanam, my soul, Ande, in darkness, Tamasi, in ignorance, Madhyaye, I drown. Translation: I am such a sinful person, but since I have now gotten this opportunity, I must completely control my mind, life and senses and always engage in devotional service, so that I may not fall again into the deep darkness and ignorance of material life. Purport: Every one of us should have this determination. We have been elevated to an exalted position by the mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master, and if we remember that this is a great opportunity and pray to Krishna that we will not fall again, our lives will be successful. Soham tatayati shami yata chitandriyanilaham yatana bhuya atmanam ande tamasi madhyaye. I am such a sinful person, but since I have now gotten this opportunity, I must completely control my mind, life and senses, and always engage in devotional service, so that I may not fall again into the deep darkness and ignorance of material life. Om Magyana Timirandashana Gyanandana Srakya Chakshumilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langaiti Grim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Sri Gurum Linatarinam Namo Vishnu Vadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Sri Mata Bhaktivedanta Swami Nami Namaste Saraswati Devam Gaurani Prachahini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pastachari Satayane Vanshakalavacadu Yascha Vishnuviyecha Bhaktitanam Kalinavyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, very short purport, but still is packed with importance, instruction. In one sense, the essence of all relevant instruction is found in this verse here, because that is our situation. That by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we got the opportunity to engage in devotional service. We got the seed of devotional service, Bhakti Lata Bija, which saved us from being engaged in all kinds of sinful, abominable activities. And how do we avoid not again falling back into a similar degraded, sinful life, sinful activities again? Well, you have to always keep ourselves engaged constantly in devotional service. And if we are constantly engaged in devotional service, then sinful activities will be no space for them. But on the other hand, if we do not, then our nature, our active nature, will force us to act, and we will act sinfully again, at least materially. We will act at least fruitfully again, or materially again. And since our nature, actually our conditioned nature, is of a sinful type, in one sense we can say here, Ajamil's background was actually quite pious, so if he kind of snapped back to actually the real Ajamil, conditioned Ajamil, but at least he had, in his childhood he grew up as a very pious Brahmana boy. That was his conditioning. So, and that's something that is a natural tendency. We tend to snap back to our childhood. Old people especially have this tendency. What happens here now becomes, they cannot always remember all the names of all the people who are around them, or what happened yesterday, or what happened last week or like that. They're not completely sure. But what happened in the childhood, it's very vivid. They can all, it's so clear. Some of that, it's arranged like that. So Ajamil, he's fortunate in that sense. He snaps back into his pious nature properly. At least he has that advantage. This is not our advantage. If we go back to, fall back into our consciousness we had from previously, we fall into a very fallen, degraded life again. And actually, you might fall lower. Did Prabhupada say that devotee, when he falls from devotional service, he falls to a lower position than he was before? He said, Prabhupada said that. Yeah. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Durena Hyaram Karma Bhuli Yoga Tanandaya Buddha Sharanam Anvicha Kripana Pala Hetava, that keep all abominable activities of Durena Karma. Durena, Krishna he uses this word Durena it means sinful, abominable activities. Durena Karma, there's a Durena Hyaram Karma, keep all abominable actions far distant by engaging in devotional service. That's actually the trick. At every moment, once you engage in a devotional activity, so there will not be any space for a sinful activity. Simply, and then Krishna says, Buddha Sharanam Anvicha Kripana Pala Hetava, that one who wants to enjoy the fruits of his activities is a miser. That's the disease. We want to act, and then we want to enjoy the action, and this is what is dragging us down. And so that is a challenge we have to learn actually by Buddhi Yoga. Prabhupada translates Buddhi Yoga as plain as devotional service. There's different words he translates as devotional service, but of course he also explains that Buddhi Yoga, that's devotional service practiced by force of the intelligence. We are at the level where we are attracted to lower activities, or activities different from devotional service, but by intelligence, by determination, we engage in devotional service, engage our senses, engage our mind on Krishna's service. This is Buddhi Yoga. With intelligence, we connect with Krishna. And so he says that once you constantly engage in this kind of devotional service with the intelligence every second, and if we don't, then we will engage in sinful activities or material activities, because that is our nature. That's one of the main instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, that we are always active. We are always active, and how does it? 3-5? How does it start?
No, the English.
Nahi kasit kshanamapi tyatvatistata karma krit kayate khyavasa karma sava pragatiyatya gunai. That all beings are forced to act according to the qualities they acquired from the modes of nature, and therefore no one can resist from doing anything, not even for a moment. And probably in the purport explains that it's not because of the body, but it's the very nature of the soul to be always active. So we do not have the choice not to act. We must act. The only choice we have is if we can act in devotional service. If we do not, then we will act according to our conditioned nature. And Krishna keeps on with this point again and again. He says to Arjuna that now you may refuse to act according to my instructions, but according to your conditioned nature, you will act all the same anyway. You may think that I'm not going to fight in battle, but that is your nature. So, forced by your nature, you will be acting all the same anyway. But if you don't act in my devotional service, it will cause you to, it will bind you, it bound, and you'll be lost. Krishna says, if you do not act according to my instructions, you will be lost. You can do it, it's your free choice, but you will be lost if you don't act according to my instructions. And so that is also a similar challenge that we have. We have to be fully engaged in devotional service. And if not, then durina, karma, abominable activities, as Krishna says, we will engage in all kinds of, and we know what we were engaged in. So the whole process of devotional service, which we have embanked or embarked, that we have embarked, is a process of learning to engage everything. And here it says that we should engage our. Ajamil says his mind, his life, and his senses. We have different levels of our existence, and they must be engaged. The body has to be engaged. The senses and the body must be engaged. But even more so, the mind has to be engaged. And the mind here means our desires and our feelings and our thoughts and our intelligence, and as everything has to be completely engaged in devotional service. And to the degree it is not engaged like that, then it will be engaged in fruitive activities, material activities, sinful activities. It's simply unavoidable. And we know that. I mean, we have the struggle with the mind every day. And actually, to control the mind is very easy when we chant, isn't it? Hare Krishna, we put our full life and soul into Hare, we really mean it. Hare Krishna when we are. But as soon as we don't engage the mind like that, the mind spins off, and it thinks of that, and it thinks of this, and I'm the enjoyer, and all kinds of, really, horrible, abominable thoughts pop up in the mind, and we cannot restrict it. It's simply a constant flow. But as soon as we chant, then the energy of the mind is engaged in chanting. And if you don't, then it's engaged in, and such a, wow, it's such a challenge. It's constantly, where there's no break. And I find that is really, a difficult hurdle to get over. It's like the heart is beating. Sometimes it's boom, boom, boom. Sometimes the heart will say, I'd like to just have a little rest. But the heart doesn't get rest. If the heart rests, then that's it. So for 50, 60, 80 years, every other second the heart has to beat, and we cannot have a rest. Similar to the mind, there's no rest. It's not that, okay, now we can just rest and not, peace. If we do that, then immediately it's engaged in thoughts different from devotional service. So it's quite a challenge. Of course, one can get purified and come to the point where the mind spontaneously runs towards Krishna. That's a liberated platform. At that point, then the mind is the best friend. On that point, then the mind will be our worst enemy. And as long as we on that still where the mind, we fight with the mind and our mind and thoughts and feelings and desires and so on, then we have to engage by Buddha Yoga, by very determination, and by very expert guidance as well. It takes guidance. We cannot guide ourselves. That's very important to understand. So we have the guidance of the scriptures. We have the guidance of the gurus and the sadhus, and we should be guided by them how to engage our nature, because it's a whole science of engaging actually when we start looking at how to engage ourselves properly. And Krishna, he talks about that in the Bhagavad Gita in the 12th chapter. the famous verses where Krishna says, engage all your, simply engage, isn't it? How does it say? Just fix your mind upon me and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me, always without a doubt. It's so simple. Just fix the mind on Krishna and just engage all your intelligence in Krishna, in my devotional service, and thus one will be living within Krishna without any doubt. So simple. But as we also talked about, I think the other day, that's actually the Uttama Adhikari platform. How does Prabhupada define the Uttama Adhikari? We hadn't even talked about that, and sometimes we think it's the Uttama Adhikari, he sees Krishna's pastimes, Radha Krishna, Vrindavan, wherever he sees, and he is crying, and his hair standing on end, and so on. And that's the Uttama Adhikari. But strangely enough, that's not how Prabhupada defines the Uttama Adhikari in the nature of devotion. How does Prabhupada define the Uttama Adhikari there? He writes that, I don't have verbatim, but more or less Prabhupada says first of all, it's an advanced devotee who has full knowledge of the scriptures, completely convinced he has full knowledge, full understanding of the scriptures, he can present them to others, and he's always engaging in his intelligence how to expand Krishna consciousness. That's the Uttama Adhikari. The symptom of the Uttama Adhikari is that his intelligence, every moment, his intelligence is planning and thinking, how can I expand Krishna consciousness, the Krishna consciousness movement? That's the Uttama Adhikari. And that can be so again, you see, this is actually very practical, observable. We can see someone has that symptom, but all he's doing is simply he's working to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. He's engaged in preaching. He's constantly, we can see by his symptoms that he's not meditating or planning or thinking about anything else except how to expand devotional service. That's the Uttama Adhikari. External symptoms, no, he probably will not show any external symptoms because those who are cheap sahajas, they will have it. That's actually for them. Although the Uttama Adhikari in some cases may not be able to restrict himself, but generally he will not show anything. But those who are cheap, they will cry in the kirtan, and they will say, "I'm so ecstatic." There were anyway. So actually the first instruction Krishna gives here, that's actually for the devotees who are on the spontaneous level of devotional service. And if you can do it, fine. That's the best platform. Simply fix your mind on Krishna and engage all the intelligence in Krishna's service. That's all. But then Krishna says, but however, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. So, here, now we're addressing the conditioned nature. We might say, but I cannot do this. It's simple, the first instruction, but we have to admit, we cannot do this. Then Krishna says, but then follow the regulated principles. Live according to a schedule, follow instruction of the spiritual master, of the Shastras. Get up early in the morning, chant a fixed number of rounds, follow the program, good sadhana, serve according to instructions, and in this way one will naturally come to the higher platform. It's somewhat artificial, but it will get one going. So one will come to the natural platform. Just like sometimes a car will not start. So how do you start a car? Well, one way is you simply push it. That's artificial. You push it. to go. And then suddenly it starts, and then boom, then it again drives by its own energy, by its own power. There's actually sadhana bhakti like that. To get us started, get us somewhat artificially going, so we come into naturally acting in devotional service, and then be on the highest platform again. Of course, for a car, it can take half a minute. For us, it can take half a lifetime, or one lifetime like that. But still, that is the idea. And but then after that, Krishna says, "But if you cannot do that, I cannot follow the regulated principles. Such a regulated life is not. I'm not able to." Then Krishna says here, if you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. So that's actually the next level. So you cannot follow the regulations according to my instruction that I instruct, Krishna says, or through the spiritual master. You do this, you do this, but no, then you're not able to do that. You have other desires. I would rather like to do this. I would rather like to work like that. Then Krishna says, but then work for me. Then do it for me. Okay, you cannot follow regulation principles. Then come and for example, do practical service, or give whatever money you make, give to me, give to my service, or give some of it to my service, and so on. In this way, you will, what it says here, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect state. Meaning, at one point, then you'll be able to follow the regulated principles, and then by following the regulated principles, sadhana completely, then you will be able to come to the perfect platform. So these, and of course, Krishna, he goes even further. He says, if you cannot work for me, but then try to work, the fruits of your actions, and simply be situate yourself. How does it say? Yeah, try to be self-situated. Give up the desire to enjoy the results of your work. And if you cannot do that, then cultivate knowledge. So he's giving instructions on how one can engage on different levels, addressing the conditioned nature. That's what Krishna is talking about here. And if you look further, look closer at it, Krishna is referring to 3 ways we can engage, at least, which are relevant for us who wants to come to the platform of pure devotional service, which are the platforms of Bhagavad, Vidhi, Pantaratic Vidhi, and Manasram. These are the first. The Bhagavad Vidhi is a spontaneous platform, or a very spontaneous platform. One simply is engaged in glorifying Krishna and rendering service to Krishna according to one's full capacity. Simply one gets a instruction from Krishna, and one simply acts on it. Hanuman was told, find Sita. So Hanuman just had this mission in mind, find Sita, and he was just, his whole existence, he was just looking for Sita. That's on the Bhagavad platform, or like Pariksit Maharaj, simply listening. Nothing else.